Welcome to episode 2 of Rapid Website Recreations, where I give myself just 30 minutes to try and recreate a famous website using WordPress and the Gutenberg block editor. This week, I'm trying to recreate the Yoga with Adriene website. She is probably the most famous yoga teacher out there at the moment, with over 10 million subscribers on YouTube. So if you are looking for some top tips to build your sites with WordPress and Gutenberg, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Okay, so over on the right, this is the website I'm going to try and recreate. This is Yoga with Adriene. And over on the left, we have the freshly installed 2022 theme. Now I'm not going to build the entire website. I'm going to do 3 key pages, which is this home page, stuff on here. Recreate this header, because that's quite an interesting header. I'm going to try and recreate all the fonts that they're using. I'm going to get as close to possible as the style as I can. I won't get exact, but hopefully I'll get fairly close. And then there's 2 other pages I want to try and do, and that's the blog page here. So it has a customized blog page, which I'm going to show you how to do, which can be useful for you. And also this calendar page, which is quite interesting. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I think it's quite interesting because when you click on each of these little calendar items, it opens up into a YouTube playlist or video. And I think that's quite an interesting challenge to see if we can recreate that as well. So if I was going to approach a rebuild like this, there were 3 main elements that I think about. Number 1 is the structure. Number 2 is the design. And number 3 is actually building out the pages. So let's crack on. So the first thing is the structure. So basically, I just need to create the pages that are on this website. I'm not even going to put any content into these pages. All I'm going to go is to my dashboard, and I'm going to go add new page like so. And then I'm going to create these pages. Now, at the moment, I'm not putting any content into these pages whatsoever. Think of them just a bit like placeholders that we're going to populate later. Okay, so I've quickly gone off and created all those pages. You can see them all listed. The next thing I want to do is to set my home page. So that's just dashboard, go to settings and reading. And this option up here, your homepage displays, we're going to change it from your latest post to a static page. And we're just going to set our home page as our static page. Now we're not going to set our post page here because we're actually going to customize that in a slightly different way later on. So if I save changes and go back here now, we'll see now that the home page is just that blank page that I created. Right, now it's time to start doing some of the designy stuff, the more interesting stuff in a way. Right, so the first thing we want to do is change the fonts because the fonts are wrong. Now we're not going to get the exact same fonts, but we'll get close and fonts that look much nicer. Now, to find out the font of any font on a website, there's a great browser extension called What Font, and I'll put a link to it in the description below for you. You just install it and you'll see a little icon in your toolbar up here. You just click on that. And then you just hover over any text on the web page, anyone's web page, and it'll tell you what font they've actually used. So you can find out exactly what fonts other websites are using, which can be really cool if you're trying to emulate somebody else's design or you get inspiration from another website. Now, you won't potentially be able to use that font on your site if it's a commercial font or a custom font, but you'll probably be able to find a Google font that's very similar to it. So you just find the name. So in this example, this is Pointer Old Style Display. And then there is a website, which I will link to in the description below for you, where you can actually find out a similar Google font that you can actually use. You just type in the name of that font here, click on it, and it will tell you some alternative fonts that you can actually use on your sites. So this one is looking like Baskerville would be a good sort of similar font to use on my site. Now, to use that on your WordPress website, the easiest way is probably to use a plugin, which again I will link to in the description below for you, which lets you add your own fonts. And the one I'm using today is called Fonts Plugin, which seems really good. I've used it a few times. It's free. There's a free version and a pro version. Here it is. Again, I will link to this in the description for you. Let's activate this. The free version is pretty cool. The pro version gives you more control and also control over things like whether it's loaded locally. So if GDPR is super important to you, you might want to look at the pro version. And then simply all we do is go to the WordPress customizer here, and this is where you load in the fonts that you want. So I know that the paragraph font I'm going to use today is Roboto, and then my heading font is going to be Baskerville. Okay, you've got some other settings in here as well, so you can do things like change the font weight. Now the pro version gives you more options in here as well. So my font's looking better. I can further customize it within the pages as well. Now the other thing I probably want to do with this one is I want to change the navigation fonts. I think I'm going to use Roboto again, but I'm going to use condensed, and hopefully with this one, yeah, I can go light. So you see how my navigation font along here closer to that font. Now again, I can change the size of these fonts within the actual navigation block, which I'm going to come on to. But at least now we have fonts that are looking much closer to the site that we're trying to emulate. Right, I'm going to jump forward slightly now. I'm going to add some content into this home page. Now I'm doing this primarily so when we're actually editing the header block up here, we can see whether we've got things right. So let me just add some content very, very quickly. Now I think this section over here, this hero section, we can pretty much just recreate using the standard cover block with a few columns within it. So I'm going to add the cover block to start with. I'm going to set the background. Now the background isn't exactly right. We're going to make that exactly right in a few minutes though. And then instead of writing a title, I'm going to add some columns in here, because essentially I think what we've got over here in the Adriene website is 2 columns with an image in the right column and some heading block and a paragraph block in this left-hand column. So I'm going to add the columns block, and I think it's 50-50, so that one there. I'm going to make it full width, so I make sure I select the top level cover block up here and then select full width option here. Now you might not see this represented massively within the editor. Actually, that's pretty good. And then over on the left, we've got a heading block to start with, so I'm just going to click the add new and add the heading block. And for speed today, I'm going to copy and paste this text in here. Then under there, we've got this paragraph block. Well, this is going to end up with multiple paragraph blocks. And then underneath that, we've got this other heading block. So I'm just going to hit return, hit / heading, and then chuck that in there. That might be fine. And then over on the right here, we've got this image block. So I'm going to save the image of Adriene first. So I'm going to go save image as, and I'm going to save this image to a file on my desktop, I think. Pop that in there. And then I'm going to click on the plus sign here, find the image block, and then I'm going to upload that image that I just saved into that column there. Okay. Now the other thing I'm going to do here is I want to set this image and the content to align within the middle of that block, and that's pretty close. The other thing I want to do actually quickly is get the right color. So I'm going to use the ColorZilla browser extension, which again I will link to in the description below, to find out the right color, and then I can just pop that in over here. So make sure you've got the color cover block selected, click on the little cog icon, go to color here, then click on that little section there, click on this little icon here, and then just paste your new color in there, and you'll see the background color of that block will change. Let's update it and go and check it out now and see how we're looking, how our page is looking compared to the real one. Okay, so you see how that hero section is actually not massively away. This text needs to be bolder and we need a bit more space up here. But the real reason I've done that now is to show you this enormous bit of white space here, whereas this one butts up to the navigation. So that's what I want to show you how to do next. And there's a really cool tip. Right, now we're going to use the power of full site editing to change the layout here. This is the beauty of full site editing, that we can change this stuff. We're not really restricted by any theme constraints. We've got a big issue, which is we've got this page title, which we don't want to show at all. And we've also got this separator, and we've got loads and loads of white space. And you'll see on some of the other pages, we're going to have an issue with that as well. So actually, we could just edit the page template. Now, brilliantly, with full site editing, we can do that. So I'm going to click on Edit Site up here in the admin toolbar. Just to note, you can only do this functionality if you're using a block theme like the 2022. If you want to see more block themes, check out my other videos because I cover them quite a lot. Now, at the moment, you see this actually loads in the page editor. We can see all our templates by clicking on the W up here and clicking on templates. And here's all the templates that we can actually edit. This can get confusing. This is going to be simplified as full site editing develops. At the moment, it's still a little bit confusing how you access this stuff. And then you've also got, so you've got templates and you've also got template parts. They're your two main things that you can edit. Your template parts primarily really are things like your header and footer, which are used in multiple templates. So if I click on header here, I'm going to edit this in a few minutes. Here's our header, and that's what's running along the top of our site. But we edit that in one place, and then that applies every time that template part has been used. So that template part will be used in most of these pages here. For example, this page template here. So what we can do now is we can jump into this one just by going to site, because this is our home page, and we can start to delete some of these elements in here. Now, if I click on the list view, you'll see what we've got. Now, it is a little bit confusing because we've got groups, and within groups, we've got other groups. But essentially, we want to leave the header alone, but we've got our group in here. And within there, we've got some of the stuff we don't need. And actually, we don't want any of the stuff here. We don't want our post title, our featured image we don't want to show because we're going to use the cover block within the content. The separator block we don't want to show, and we don't want any space down here. All we really want is this first block of ours, our cover block, to be the first block in the page. So we could just go in here and start to remove these like I'm doing here. I'm just using the list view, clicking on the block itself, clicking on these 3 dots and going remove each like so. That's certainly one way to do it. And we're starting to see how we're getting rid of some of this space here. We'll get rid of this spacer block as well. You'll find out though that we're not actually going to get to the point where this actually looks perfect, but that's what I'm going to show you in a few minutes. Now what I could do, the alternative way to do this, probably the quicker way, is just to remove this whole group block so we've got no content whatsoever, and then go the 3 dots and go insert after, and then literally all I want in here really is the post content. Now post content and page content are exactly the same thing. They're just going to bring your post or page content into that space. So all we've got now is the header block, which we're going to dive into in a few minutes, and then we've got our post content block underneath it. There are some further settings for your post content block, which we'll go through potentially in a few minutes, depending on how this looks. But what we're going to do now I've updated that, is actually go and look at that page. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard, go to my pages, and I'm going to find that new home page that I've created, and we're going to view it. And there we go. And it looks much, much, much better, but we've still got this issue that we're still not butted up to that navigation at the top here. Now this is the big tip that I'm going to show you, and this took me a while to work out how to do this. It's a little bit nuanced in terms of how you do it, because if I go to edit page, you'll see we've got no blocks within the page. So there's no blocks creating the space within the page. And if I go to the editor, you'll see we've actually got no blocks from the header to the post content. So theoretically, this piece of content should be butting up to that navigation. But what's actually within that navigation is there's some margin put into it, which we're going to get rid of now. Now this is where we use template parts. I want to edit the header template part here. Here it is. Now the list view is vital to your success in this, and you'll see it's actually added it within a group. Now the group has some inbuilt styles, I think, coming from the theme, which is adding some stuff. So I'm going to get rid of that by just dragging this row block above it. Let's try that again, above it. And I'm just going to delete that group block. So all we've got is the row block. Within the row block, we've got another row block with our site logo, which is here, which I've just uploaded. A site title, which we're going to get rid of. We don't want that block, we just want the logo. And then we've got the navigation block here. But the key bit is, now you can click on the row block here, click on your block settings. Let me make this bigger so we can see. And now in the block settings, we can change some things about this row. For example, we can do things like make sure the padding is 0 above and below, like so. We can also make sure the margin is 0 as well, especially below. And you can do that by clicking on these 3 dots here and going to margin. That will open up some more options for you down here, one of which being margin. And now we can jump in here and actually set that margin to be 0. If we want more precision over this, we can actually set the top and the bottom margin. So we might want a bit of top padding actually, or something like that. So let's add a bit of padding at the top. So you can play around with these values to try and get the design that you're after. Now, if we go back to the dashboard and go back to our website, we should see now we've got that nice, let's make this bigger so you can see that we've got much closer to what we want to achieve in terms of this cover block now is flush with the navigation above it. Right, next up, I want to fix up the header because we've got some serious issues going on. We've got the wrong logo, so we're going to upload the correct logo. These pages are also in a different order. Ours are alphabetical. That's all that happened because we haven't created a menu yet, and your pages will be alphabetical by default. They've also got on the Adriene website this nice little social icons, so we're going to try and add those as well. So let's dive into the site editor and start to fix those things up. I'm just going to start by saving this logo over here on the right. In fact, let's just take a screenshot of it, which is a cheat way to do it, but I'm going to do it that way. So I'm just taking a screenshot, and we can upload that now in replacement of this one. So I'll just click on this block here and you'll see a replace option, and I'm going to upload it, and hopefully it's on my desktop somewhere. Should have saved it to my desktop. There it is. That'll replace that. Now you can resize this just by dragging this up and down like so. So resizing logos is fairly easy. You can punch in the exact image width over here on the right if you click on the block settings panel, but I've just done it by eye. The next thing we want to do is these menu items are in the wrong order. Now at the moment, as I say, they're just adding them in alphabetical order because we haven't actually created the menu yet properly. So we're going to create a new menu, and that allows you to add these items very quickly. Now this is one of the reasons why I added these pages to start with, because now, because they're created, I can click on the plus sign and just search for the pages themselves and add the page titles. And if I hadn't ever added the pages first, you would see that they wouldn't exist, so we couldn't add them. So I'm just going to add a few more. There's my blog. And what else have we got? We've got free yoga. I had that one. I did. I don't think I did search. Did I do search? I did do search. And then let's add this one here, cooler. And then we've got one more, which is that one there. Okay, that'll add the menu items for us. And again, let's click on the list view so we can actually see what's happened here. So now we've got the navigation block with all these page links within it, which is great. And the other thing I probably wanted to do here is add my social icons. So I'm going to go insert after, and I'm going to go / social icons, like so. Now I might change these to a different way of doing this later, but let me just add one for now. And let me also fix my toolbar to the top of the page. Sometimes you'll find this toolbar gets in the way of what you're trying to do. So if you fix it to the top of the page, click on these 3 dots here and go top toolbar, just pops it up here, which makes it much easier to work with. Now I'm just going to add a Facebook one to start with, like so, and I click on it, and this is where you'd actually put the link to your Facebook page. You'll see it's not actually the right color. Let's see if we can change these here. Yeah, we can change the color. So to do that, you click on the social icons main top level block here. Okay, so I've changed them to be a darker gray color. Let's just add one more. And again, social icons, let's add a YouTube one. And there we go. And you add it and then you click on it to add the actual address of your YouTube channel. I'm just putting in some fake information at the moment, and there's our social icons. So let's go and check out the site again. Let's see how close we've got in terms of that header. And that's, I mean, it's not exact, but it's pretty good and it looks really nice, doesn't it? I mean, we've taken the 2022 theme and we've changed it a lot. There's a few things I want to do to this cover block, which I'll actually do within the cover block itself. Just 2 things really, I think, actually. Let's do that now. So I want a little bit more space at the top and I want to make that bold. And then I think I'm pretty happy with what we've got. I'm fairly content. As I say, it doesn't look exactly the same, but it looks pretty good. So I've just highlighted that text and made it bold. And then again, the list view will make this a lot easier for you. I'm going to click on the columns block, and within the columns block, within the cover block, I'm going to go insert before, and then I'm just going to add the spacer block, so / spacer, and add a bit of space. Again, the spacer block, you can actually change the height of this just by clicking on the block settings panel and changing the height. There is actually one more thing I think I wanted to do. Let me just go and look at this though. I think, did we want to change? No, that's fine. I think that's pretty good. Our image is a little bit bigger, but actually I like that. Text is pretty good. The header's looking pretty smart. It all works on mobile out the box because we're using Gutenberg and it just kind of works. There's one big issue, which is this one. You see how the image of Adriene flips to the bottom, whereas on the other site, it goes to the top. Now this is an issue with Gutenberg, which I'm going to be covering not in this video, but in a future video. At the moment, Gutenberg uses a thing called intrinsic design. So things just kind of happen naturally for you, things like the column stack, and the text now in future themes will automatically change the size, which is cool. But things like that, you see how the image goes to the bottom, we don't really have any easy control to do it. So I will be addressing that in a future video. But for now, it is a slight problem unless you use a third-party plugin where you can control it, which I'm trying to avoid as much as possible for this little demo. So there we go. We've kind of got the header sorted. We've got this nice cover block. We've reduced any gap in that by editing the page template. Let's quickly finish up the rest of this page. It's pretty straightforward stuff with the block editor, so it shouldn't take very long. You see, we've just got these sections. They're really nicely designed though. So we're going to start by editing underneath the cover block. And I'm just going to copy and paste a lot of this text for speed. So let's scroll down. And we're going to grab this heading here, and all I'm going to do is click down here and I'm going to go / heading, hit return. That'll pop the heading in, and I'm going to align that centrally. I also want to add a bit of space above that heading, so I'm going to add the spacer block above it, like so. Now I could change around with these gaps here, but that's probably all right. Underneath this, we've just got a paragraph block, I think. So copy and paste that. So quick way to do this is to put your cursor at the end of the heading, hit return, just paste it in, and we want to align that to the center. Next up, we have this video. Now I don't have a video, so all I'm going to do is grab that as an image actually today, just for speed. Normally you could upload that using the video block, but let me just chuck that underneath here. And now we've got a nice pseudo video. And then underneath this, we're going to add the buttons block. So I'm going to go / and then buttons to add the buttons block. And this says yoga with Adriene. Sorry if I'm spelling the name wrong. YouTube channel. Like so. Now then we need to style that buttons block. Click on the block settings icon up here, and that lets us style that button itself. First thing we need to do is set that as the outline style, and we probably want to change the size to small And that's close enough for me. Then this is pretty straightforward. It looks like we've just got 2 columns. So let's save that image again to our little folder in there. And what we're going to do is come underneath. Oh, we also need to justify that buttons block so it's centered. But we're going to go underneath the buttons block. We're going to go insert after. You see how quickly you can build this stuff. We do actually want some space under this. So I'm going to add the spacer block first and then insert after again. You'll find using the list view to insert after is often the safest way to do this stuff. The list view, I can't emphasize enough, is incredibly useful. And I think we've just got 2 equal columns here, which I'm going to add. And then in the left-hand column, we have an image block. So let's add the image block. And we're going to upload that image we just saved, which is that one there. There's the image. Then on the right-hand column, I think it's pretty straightforward. We've just got a heading block here. Put the heading in here. Now this will style better once we look at it on a bigger screen. It's looking a bit strange because we're working in the editor and it's quite small. I'm not sure why that's so small. We need to make this columns block full width, I suspect, or wide width. That's better, isn't it? Yeah, and then we've just got some text under here, like so. And then under that text, we just have another buttons block. Nice and simple. So again, hit return / buttons. And this says, read more about Adriene. And again, we are going to style that by clicking the outline like so, and we probably size it. If you want even smaller, you can click on those little icons there and you can change the size of it either in pixels or these other values here as well. That's very, very small. There you go. You can sort of play around with those to get whatever you like. That's sort of close enough for me. And then finally, we've got these other sections down here, which I'm not going to go off and add because they are super simple. You can see that's just a heading with an image block, and that's just an image block, and that's just a paragraph with a heading block above it. Let me update this so we can see how this is looking and go and look at that page. There we go. That's a little bit too big, probably, that image, but it's pretty good. It's not far away. Yeah, that image could be smaller, but I can change that very easily. In fact, let me just show you how to change the image size, just in case that's useful for you. Just pop down here and you can literally drag it like so. We can also center it if we want to, so we can align it center. You can also change it over here as well. If you want to be more precise about your image dimensions, you can change it over there. Okay, so that's the home page. Let's just compare and contrast how they're looking. That's gone into menu mode. That's better. Okay, so there's mine on the left. There's Adriene's over on the right. And if we scroll down, there's mine. That's still a little bit small. It's not quite right, but you know, it's pretty close, and it looks really nice to me. I think it looks really nice from a design point of view. I've obviously not finished it off, but that's enough of the home page. I think that gives you enough to hopefully you can see we're pretty close. There's 2 other pages that I want to show you though, and the first is the blog page, this one here, because it has a custom blog layout which we can do very easily with the full set editor. And the second one, and the final thing I'm going to show you today, is how to emulate this kind of calendar view. Not a massive fan of it, as I said before, but it's quite interesting. You can click on these and it takes you to the yoga videos. Right, next up, it's time to customize the blog page. Over on the left is our blog page, looking very empty at the moment. Over on the right is Adriene's website. I'm not a massive fan of her blog page. I don't think it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And the images are pretty average, let's say, but let's show you how to customize it, because once you know how to customize the blog page, you can pretty much design it however you like. Now, you could do this by editing the page template, but there is another way which I want to show you, because this way you can actually do on any theme. It doesn't have to be a block theme to do it. So we're going to go edit page, and we're simply going to use the query loop block to do this. So click on the plus sign, search for query loop. Now, the query loop block is one of the most powerful blocks. If you want to see more on it, I've done a longer tutorial. If you check out my channel or subscribe to my channel, you'll be able to find that. So when you first load in the query loop block, you can either choose a pre-existing one or you can start from a blank one. I'm going to start blank today. And then you've got a few options here. We definitely want an image, so I'm going to choose this option. And that's going to dynamically bring your post into that page, into that sort of layout. And as I said, there's lots of different layouts, preset layouts you can choose. I kind of think this looks nicer than Adriene's, but I am going to change it. So the first thing we need to do is to make it a grid layout. It's a very simple way to do this. Click on this little icon here for grid view. The second thing we need to do is change the number of columns. So click on your block settings panel here. Just change the columns to 2. The third thing we want to do here is get rid of this date. Now you can remove it from one and it will remove it from all of them. The other thing we want to do here is change the size of these titles. So just click into the title. You might want to use the list view at this point, and you can change the size of these. There's these preset sizes, but you can also pop in your own sizes by clicking on this little icon here. I'm kind of all right with that. I think that looks okay. Let's just close this down. And the other thing that we want to do here, let's just make sure we've got query loop selected, is you can actually change the number of posts that are coming into your page. And you can do that here by items per page. You can change that to whatever you like. I'm going to change it to 6. And that means I've got 3 rows of 2. There's a few other things you can do in here as well, which I'm not going to do today, but check out my other tutorial on that. That should be fairly close to what we need here. There we go. We've got a few differences. Our images are a little bit bigger, but actually I think they look nicer. And we're missing the title because remember on our page template, we removed the titles from all our pages because we wanted the first block to sit flush under the navigation. Now we could go off and create another page template. There's a quicker and a bit of a kludgy way to do this. You can actually just add a heading in here like I'm doing here and make that your H1. And then I'm going to center that. Okay, like so. Now I can resize these as well over here on the right, or put in your custom size and play around with these to your heart's content to get the right size that you want. The other thing to finish off this page, I think I just want to add a bit of space to the top. So I'm going to add the spacer block and size that to 50. Then I'm going to add a bit of space underneath. I'm going to duplicate that existing one and just drag it underneath like so. And that should be fairly accurate. It's not exactly the same, but actually I kind of prefer ours in some ways. We can also customize the pagination down here if we want to, but I'm okay with that. And the final thing today is to emulate this interesting challenge of this clickable calendar, which again, I'm not a huge fan of. There's probably a more elegant way to do this, but it's quite interesting. So you see the calendar on the right, you click on any of these items and it takes you to the YouTube channel for those videos. In this case, it's a playlist. So there is a cute plugin I found that enables you to do this. And you can use it in lots of other applications rather than just a calendar like this. But what I'm going to do is just nab that photo. In fact, let's go to edit page here first. So we are going to need a plugin for this, but I'm going to first buy, in fact, no, let's not do it this way. First, I need to grab the image over here. So I'm just going to do a screenshot of that image quite roughly. That's probably okay. And then we're going to add the plugin to our site, the one we're going to use. Again, I will link to this in the description below if you want to check this out. The one I'm using today is Draw Attention, and it works really well in my tests. Let's just find that. And we're going to add that to our site. It's this one here. Let's install it. So the way you do it is you create your image maps, and the image maps have been around forever on the web, but this lets you create them very easily. You'll see when you add it, you get this new menu here that says Draw Attention. You go edit image. I'll just do one of these boxes. I'm not going to do them all because that would be very tedious for you. Let's make this bigger. And over here on the right, this is where you upload your image. So I'm just going to upload the one I've just saved. And then over on the left, this is when you start to add the image maps to it. So I'm going to change the background color because otherwise it's going to have a gray background to it, which is just this setting here. But this is the key stuff here, clickable area. So that will open up there. I'm not sure why it's opened up so big. Let's make that smaller so we can see it. There we go. And then you simply, I think this is going a bit strange because of the screen I'm showing this on, but essentially what you do is you just draw these in like so. Let's do this. You can see how I'm just clicking and dragging. So I'm doing that way first, and then you can drag these corners. Hopefully you get the idea of what I'm doing. Now you can imagine this is going to take a little bit of time, but you'll get better at doing it than I am. There we go. But what's nice about this method is, as you'll see when I publish this in a second, these actually show up when somebody mouses over them, so they get some feedback. There we go. Not perfect, but you get the idea. And then the key bit down here, you go action, go to URL. Let's make this bigger so you can see it. Go to URL, and this is the URL that you put in. So let me just nab one of these YouTube URLs from Adriene's actual YouTube channel. You pop in your URL there, and I want that to open in a new window. And then you update it over on the right. And what that will do, that will generate a shortcode for you, which you can then use on your site. Can you see here that here's the shortcode? And obviously you can go off and create all your clickable areas here on the left. So I've only added one, but if you want to add another area, you just repeat the process. Then I've copied that shortcode, go back to our calendar page. We want to go to the edit screen, and we're going to use the shortcode block. And all we're going to do is put that shortcode in, and hopefully now, when we view that page after publishing it, there's our little box. And can you see how it highlights it when you actually install it? When you actually hover over it and click on that, and it's going to take you off to that video playlist. And here is the finished result. My attempt is on the left and the original website is on the right. And I think it's gone pretty well. I think mine in many ways looks pretty good, and in some ways looks better than the original website. There's the Adriene website. I didn't quite finish the homepage, but I got down to there, and actually, that's pretty spot on. And again, just using the 2022 theme and highly customizing it. And this really shows the power of full site editing and where this stuff is all going. And the blog page, let's look at that. This is my blog page. This is the Adriene blog page. Again, not identical, but pretty similar using the query loop block. And in many ways, actually, I think mine looks nicer. And the final thing that I did today was this calendar page using that plugin that I showed you. And again, I think mine's a bit better because we have some interaction going on, some user feedback when they hover over it. Thank you so much for watching. If you can hit that like button now, it would be amazing, because it really, 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 really does help spread the word of the channel. It really helps me. So thank you if you can hit that like button now. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified every time I release a new one. And if you want me to cover any other famous websites, just stick the name in the comments below and I'll try and recreate that one in a future video. Thank you again, keep well, and I'll see you soon.